generation fresh. The musician that thinks they know it all, I think that's okay. Wait a minute, let's go into something else, because we learn every day, even from our students. We learn stuff.
So you're 12 years old. You come to New York and you move into West 72nd, correct?
I moved first to West 69 on Central Park in a basement. And my mother's first word, I always remember this, was like, I never knew we were poor until we moved to New York. Dig this. Because in Camagüey we had a house, we had a lady that cleaned the house. You know, it was cheap there. So we were used to that. We moved to New York, wow, New York, to a basement until we moved to Hotel Alamac or something, because, you know, it was the beginning of Cubana de Aviación in New York. So she felt like that she was very attached to her parents, you know how the old people are. You know? But that was the first thing, and I was really miserable at the beginning in New York, because I wanted to be a musician in Cuba, until I saw guys like Puente and Machito, and I said, there is an atmosphere here, so I took the opportunity of that.
And you used to go with Richard to dances, okay, 12, 13, 14, about 15 years old you started going to dance?
Oh, yeah.
And the guys that you saw there, some of the bands that you saw when you were 14 or 15?
Arsenio, Benny Moré, Aragón, Sensación, you name it. Mon Rivera, he used to be with Moncho Leña. They did a dance at the Manhattan Center with Tito Puente, and Benny Moré was singing with Tito's band. I was there because my father used to take me, because like he worked in the airline, he used to bring these people down. The Tropicana show from Cuba, el trío, los Guaracheros de Oriente, all these people I met in New York, which was actually an advantage, because I was meeting these people that I always wanted to meet, and it would have been hard for me out of Camagüey to meet these people.
Absolutely.
So, you know, things, like Richard said, always work for the best, you know. We have gone through a lot and still going through a lot, but things always come out.
And your teachers. Now here you come to New York, you're in love with the instrument, you're in love with percussion. Who were your teachers?
That's the part that I'm not going to encourage the student to follow, because I took lessons, but I took piano lessons in New York for a few months, and my teacher went to Cuba and died. And I never found another teacher like him, because he was wonderful. I was reading like both hands in like 3 months. It was amazing teacher, and so I taught myself. So I never went to a real teacher.
So how did you get from you know, autodidactic to where somebody took a look at you and said, I'd like for him to be very much part of a band? In other words, you were that brilliant that somebody had to say, okay, you're in the band.
Well, my father won in a poker game at Cerro Timbales. And he gave it to me and says, let's see what you could do with this. So I met Vitelio Cruz, who was a trumpet player from Orquesta Jóvenes del Cayo, that was playing at the time with Oriental Cubana. And he says, I think Tata Vázquez needs somebody. And Hector Seno was playing, the guy I mentioned, in Oriental. So Hector left to make Orquesta Novel or to do something else at the time, I forgot. And he said, you think you could be ready in 2 weeks? I said, sure. 2 weeks later, they went to the Ateneo to dance, and I went to start playing with Oriental Cubana.
1960, 1959?
Around there.
Around 59, 60,
59.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Then after that, Belisario Lopez came from Cuba, and I started working with him. Belisario was one of the fathers of the danzón in Cuba. Very known flute player. He was a lawyer. The guy was very intellectual. He also helped me a lot. And the bass player from Belisario, his name was, it was like my father, Evaristo Baró. His nickname was Guajarón, the father of Ronnie Baró, the guy that sings. And well, I don't hate to say this, but it's true. I probably knew Guajarón, he just passed away, even better than his family, because he always took me and I played with different bands with him. And actually, the basics of the danzón I learned from him. He used to play in Orquesta Ideal in Cuba with Joseito Valdés, and he also played flute. And this guy was, I mean, I met Cachao also in those days when I started with Fajardo, because my father went to get Cachao to the airport because he worked, like I said, in Cuban Airlines. So I know Cachao since I was, 16, 17 or something, like when he came from Cuba. But I never recorded with Cachao until '93, like we did the thing with Andy Gonzalez.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. And the other day, somebody that I'm not going to mention tells me, we got to help the young people. I said, we always help the young people. But let me tell you something. It took me all those years to record with Cachao. I mean, we had no help. And I met him when I was a teenager. So, that's another story.
Those 2 weeks that they gave you to prepare for your first professional gig, how did you, okay.
I'm glad you remember the
thread of the
thing. I kept on doing what Richard said, but it's this time,
no,
I didn't have a platillo. And so my father brought me a small little platillo, and I didn't have a stand, so I took one of those music stands that was very weak. And the first dance with Oriental Cubana, I played with the timbales, one little bell, like charanga, a big bass drum, like it was like a 24-inch, that my cousin had painted at the front with two dancers by hand. One of like circus style. And the little cymbal here.
What were the timbales made out of? Madera?
No, the timbales were a very small set of timbales which I gave to Fellow Barrio.
Oh, okay.
And Fellow still has the timbales.
Okay, the setup of the band, more or less, where did they tell you to stand? Where did you set up? Where were the trumpets? Where was the piano?
Since the beginning, I set up in the front. I was the kid, so I was setting up in the front with my big bass drum, and there was 4 or 5 saxos. This was a big band, like Machito. Big band. And Fellow started there too. Willie Ellis was the piano player, the guy that later on was the one of the leaders, or the leader of Orquesta Novel. And a lot of people came out of that band. Willie Garcia also, that later on, Mary Lupe, he started in that band.
That's a voice. That's a voice in the hat.
It's a shame that his mind didn't go the right way, but Willie did great jobs with Chocolate and with Son Primero.
With Joe Cube, I mean,
that's right.
Joe Cube.
That's right.
That was the singer,
That's right.
Cheo Feliciano was only with Joe Cube, I think, 4 years. But Willie Garcia. Now, how many pieces in the band?
In Oriental, there was at least 12, 13 pieces.
Oriental. And Pete El Conde was the
Pete was the conga player at the beginning, and then he became one of the singers, and then he left.
Bolo.
Bolo Sanchez was the main singer.
And who would help you carry the big bass drum and the timbales and the
father used to carry the bass drum.
His father used to love to carry because he could get into all the dances.
It was an excuse for him to go to the dances. And then I'm playing and my father is dancing. Come on, let's go and finish. Oh, wait.
You go home by yourself.
What was the pay?
Oh, my God. I shouldn't say this, but I mean, people will remember that the first pay was $15. and I'm not very far. The scale of the Palladium for a Sunday at the Palladium was $20.
What was that word that you say that Mr. Orestes Vilato invented?
Thrifty.
Yes.
No, I
think. Oreste, his father was a great guy. His father would use the opportunity any time he could to be at the dances with us. Yeah, we're a bunch of kids, and we'll follow Oreste around. Everywhere Oreste played, we were there, cheering him on. And it was good years.
He actually
I can't say this.
He actually asked me not to include him in the interview because he was going to get a little sentimental, but you see him sitting there and he's bracing himself. So the second band, the repertoire of La Oriental. What number would you invariably open with?
I tell you one thing. I hear now talking about the newcomers, all my respect, and the new style of music, and you will hear